All right.
Okay, you can
Has
add-
anybody
yeah.
tried to zoom in? No?
Just me and you.
Okay.
Mary was on there.
I'm admitting you to the waiting room from the waiting room, Mary.
There you are.
There you go. Okay. All right. Everybody ready to go? Okay, I will call the meeting to order at 8:03 a.m. on Tuesday, July 7th, 2026 for a meeting of the Personnel Committee of the Village of Shorewood Hills. 8:03. Let's do the roll call. Albrecht is excused. Somebody has their volume on.
Sounds like it's coming from
Yeah.
Greg or Mary.
I don't have it.
Oh,
No.
yeah,
Mary,
you
is
don't
your
have-
volume on
I'm
either?
trying to turn
on
it
your
off.
phone? Okay.
It's off.
Okay.
Your volume, the volume.
Your volume, you're talking.
Says you're muted.
This one? No, what are you?
If you mute.
On Zoom.
You want me to unmute?
No, no,
I
mute.
am muted.
You are muted.
Turn your volume on the phone down. Okay, now,
That's
there you
right.
go.
There we
Yeah,
go.
now I don't hear anything. I
Okay.
think we're good. Thank
Okay.
you. Sorry about that. That's, all right, roll call. Albrecht is excused. Barford, I am here. Bill Branson,
Here.
Lampy,
Here.
McKinney is excused. Stevenson,
Here.
Townsend.
Here.
All right, we have quorum. Sam, are we in compliance with open meeting law?
Yes.
Thank you. And I will note that Sam Ballard, Administrative Assistant, is also present.
I know, but the video's not working, but it is recording.
Okay, that's good. Okay. Public comments. There's nobody in the room and apparently nobody online either. So I think we're just gonna look past the public comments. All right, approval of the minutes. We have 2 months worth of minutes from May 14th and June 2nd. Did anyone want to make any corrections or additions to the minutes?
I would just, I wasn't on the committee for the May, so I have nothing to comment on that. But the June meeting under 7, discussion of village administrator authority to grant emergency leave. With respect to the last sentence, which reads currently, the committee agreed to draft a few sentences in this vein for the appropriate section in the new personnel manual. My recollection was that we didn't talk about the personnel manual. Was my recollection Koki was going to volunteer to draft something and bring it back to the committee for our consideration. That was my recollection, but I didn't listen to the minutes. The Zoom.
So the difference being that draft something to bring back versus explicitly having it be part of the personnel manual.
That's a big jump, I think.
Um,
Because my sense was there were some real reservations about it, but we would at least look at a suggested proposal as to whether, and we couldn't just put in the personnel manual without running it by the board. So
well,
there's
the
a-
whole manual is in revision, so it's all gonna go by the lawyer and the board, so actually the two are not that different in that we're still in the middle of revising the personnel manual. Functionally, they're not super different. In fact, I did put in a draft sentence to the personnel manual draft just this morning, which we'll be going over the next time we finally deal with the draft again. So with that knowledge, Marilyn, would you still like
No,
the?
it was still coming back to the committee.
Yes, yes.
So I would agree, I would suggest committee agree to draft a few sentences in this vein for consideration at a future committee meeting.
Okay. I guess if people don't know what's going on with the manual, they would not understand the distinction there. Thank you.
Nothing else.
Okay, okay, thanks. Any other changes to either minutes? Can I have a motion to approve? Greg? Okay, okay, thank you, Greg. Mary. All right, let's vote. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
You're gonna abstain. Okay. Motion carries. Thanks, everybody. Okay. Number 6, item number 6, report on recent hiring activity. So, had we been meeting tomorrow, we could give you a much more fulsome report because the board is meeting tonight in special session to hopefully appoint finance director and clerk. So all I can say is that we're at the point of appointing a finance director and a clerk. Finance director process went exceedingly well, had 18 good candidates. Yeah, 8 semifinalists are fine. Yeah, and then very happy with the person who's been chosen. The clerk.
When would that position start?
Oof.
As soon as possible.
Yeah, as soon as. I don't know anything about
Really, in reality.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure, as to when the finance director would start. I would assume before Christy leaves us, but I'm not 100%.
Do you know when that is?
I think she's supposed to be here until the end of July.
Okay, that kind of fits with my mental model. So yeah, hopefully. So that's why we're having a special meeting so that we can get her done and the person can give notice and we can get them started. Yes.
I just have a question. It's been a while, obviously, since I've been on Personnel Committee. Does the Personnel Committee have any role in hiring in the past few months? Did any of these issues come to personnel on the finance?
So
and on the
Koki was,
positions?
yeah, Koki was appointed to the search committee for finance director as a representative of personnel. And then I participated in the clerk interviews, which we just had a week ago. I think it was just a week ago. So we were represented and we also had, I think, some role in reviewing the position description, at least for the finance director. I'm not sure about clerk because we so recently had another clerk search. So does that answer your question?
Right, I just wasn't, there'd been so many rumors in the last periods about the roles of committees, and when the 10 years I was on personnel, we had a very active role in hirings and personnel issues. So I just, so what I'm hearing from you is personnel was involved and we were able to select a representative to be part of it. But nothing came back to us to give a recommendation to the board in this regard, as we used to do.
No, the the finance director position recruitment was all handled through PAA and it's going directly to the board. The clerk position also is going directly to the board because that's the only body that has a say.
Well, that's also, I mean, that's changed, right? So our role is in being on the committee, being on the interviewing committee. And so one of us is on the interviewing committee, and through that person, they are representing the personnel committee. And so we have a say, if you will, through that person, but not as a full committee. So they don't come back to us and we don't say yes or no. That's done all through the administration and the administrator, and the administrator's role as HR director, because we don't have an HR director. And so then whatever the committee decides, the hiring committee decides, goes directly to the board, and the board just makes a decision about hiring.
But there's always somebody from personnel on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always been represented on the interview teams.
Yeah. And for the finance director, I was explicitly not on the review committee because I am a trustee and I get my chance to have my say at the final appointment. So that was done on purpose.
So was there anyone from personnel?
Koki.
Okay.
Yeah. Another point on recent hiring activity is that the LTE, the limited term employee for open records, has been hired. His name is Pedro Pedroza, village resident, somebody who works in a bank or banking at a level in which he has to deal with open records requests quite frequently. So this is somebody who comes with a lot of experience and was ready to chip in, ready to pitch in. So
Do you have the spelling of his last name?
I believe it's Pedroza, Pedroza, I believe.
Wonderful.
Yes.
That's right?
Yep. Do it one more time.
Pedro.
Yeah.
ZA,
Oh, what's his first name?
Pedro.
Oh,
If you think you're hearing doubles,
thank
you
you,
are.
thank you. And you said I just got my notes up. The finance director is the one that's in process now. What's the other one?
And the clerk.
And clerk.
So we have a lot of flux of very important positions. So that's why we're having a special meeting tonight, hopefully to get those,
An election.
we got an election, yeah. Very soon, Pam, heavy sigh. So I believe that's all the hiring activity for right now.
Hiring action.
Yeah, that's agenda
Okay.
item 6. Report on recent or about to be recent hiring activity. Yeah,
There was another LTE that you all did.
that's right. And Brian has been in discussion with a person, that's the recreation and communication one, but it has not come to fruition yet. So
And where can I find like what that person would do?
it's on the website.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
on the position, the open positions page.
It should be on the main page.
Got it, thank you.
All right, any other issues with hiring activity? Okay. Report on agenda item 7, report on Board of Trustees agenda items and actions affecting village staff. I believe there is only one that I have to report on, which is only to say that there was a closed session item at the last board meeting regarding disciplinary actions around the staff member who took the logic survey multiple times. But there was no action taken. So that was, yes.
One of the things that I noticed in most villages and around the state, or in a lot of them, they have an ethics committee. And whenever there's a complaint, it goes to the ethics committee. It doesn't go directly to the board. So the board isn't making complaints, reviewing and judging. There's an ethics committee who handles all complaints. It's, like this situation that you're just talking about. They would review it and make a recommendation to the board, and it's usually in conjunction with outside attorneys. And has the board ever considered that?
I know an ethics committee has been mentioned a few times in the context of conflict of interest and,
And process.
And,
Just to
yeah.
separate
but we've never,
Checks and balances in our constitution.
yeah, we've never, actually converted and got that done.
Even Middleton has one, not even.
I had,
I'm thinking Middleton.
even Middleton.
It's not
Um,
apples and apples.
I am that's gonna be in the minutes. And I will
It
put
just
that,
seems odd that those always go to the board.
yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes it is, yeah. Okay, I will bring that up. I think there's gonna be a related item on the next board, agenda, so that might be the time for me to bring it up.
Well, I would say is we do have a procedure, and I hadn't looked at it recently, but during the years I was on the board, there was concern that board members who were also members of Black Hawk Country Club were taking an active role in matters relating to the board, and many of us thought to the village, many of us thought that was a conflict of interest. So we set up a grievance procedure that someone could file a grievance against a particular board member. If that board member, you couldn't resolve it informally, and then that matter would go to arbitration. So we did have a process where an arbitrator handed down a decision with respect to two board members were members of the club and participating in board issues. Well, when that happened, it prompted some people would say a retaliation, others would say a response. So grievances were filed against some of the board members who were members of the Shorewood Hills pool and who participated in matters relating to the pool. And that also went to an arbitrator. And the arbitrator handed down a decision. So we do have some, it seems to me, the things that come up that suddenly the board decides, gosh, we need a committee for that. But I like to think in general, we really get along very well, and people don't put themselves in positions that raise questions so that you have to bring in an airstrike to get a resolution.
Is this, so this isn't in the ordinances anywhere?
I believe it
Is it?
is.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
But having said that, I haven't looked recently. I drafted a number of those, so they went in, but I haven't, since I've been off the board, ever sat down and looked to see some things remain, some things don't. But we certainly had it set out clearly.
Okay, okay, that's a good bit of richness to add to the topic, and I will check. And so this happened for Blackhawk
And the pool.
and the pool. All right. Okay, everybody happy then with item 7?
No, I have a question.
Okay.
So, well, first I just want to repeat what I heard. So you went into closed session to talk about disciplinary action, came out of closed session to say that there was no action to be taken.
Disciplinary action had been taken by the administrator. And it was handled according to the personnel manual and as an oral reprimand. Some of the trustees, and I believe I can say this because it has been said in public before, that wanted to have a written record. So that was the subject of the closed session.
Okay, but coming out of closed session.
No action. Yeah.
Okay. And then has there been any discussion around office culture? Like whenever we talked about giving bonuses, we talked about the bonus and we talked about dealing with office culture as well. And is there any talk about office culture and helping support the staff?
There have been no agenda items that look like that.
Okay. Okay, what does that mean?
That means, um, uh, that on the various closed sessions that I've been in, this comes up, but I can't really discuss it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And has there been any, is there any way for us to know how the change in presidency has impacted the staff?
Is there a way to know? I mean, I guess we could survey the staff, but other than that, nothing systematic. Yeah,
Okay.
only hearsay.
So as a personnel committee member, I think it's really important that we have some processes or some ways for the staff to be able to express their desires, their interactions, their something with in their interactions with the board to somebody. I think right now, the way that it's set, it's probably supposed to go to Brian, which then theoretically would come to us. But I think I would like to have that more clearly delineated.
Okay.
And along that line, somewhat related, is we, and I don't know if personnel continues it, but we really ought to. Personnel committee around wage time would have meetings with various departments, staff, generally without their supervisors present and clearly without the administrator present. And we would hear in a good way and in a bad way what they're happy about, what they're not happy about. And I always thought that was so valuable, particularly in recent years when we haven't had any residents as staff people. And as a result, I think that contributed to an us versus they attitude. And I think it's important to get back to that. People would talk about, well, what they're doing in Middleton and what they're making. One hand, on the other hand, I remember the crew saying, oh, unlike other communities, Shorewood Hills invest in such good equipment. We don't have to worry about breakdowns. Others would say, oh, we really appreciate the residents. Do you know sometimes they leave pies out? This was for the public works, pies for us. So that it would be, frankly, pretty informal, and I thought pretty helpful in hearing concerns, but also positives, and then giving them a chance to see us. My sense had been that a lot of the interviewing had been done, or some of it had been done simply by staff, by the administrator, and that residents were involved, and we had staff who came in who didn't have a sense of our community. So I would hope that part of what we're doing is we're looking at possible wages as we're arranging individual meetings with various departments, police, public works, administration, and whoever else. Worcester.
Were those governed by any closed confidentiality rules?
No, it was open, but generally no one came except the people who were on the committee or the staff came.
Those were just stopped about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
3.
we did them every,
Oh,
we
you
met
did
with
them?
every
Yeah, we did them
department.
all the time.
Yeah.
And then like, at least through Carl, we did.
That stopped with Sharon and has not come back. And then when the consultant talked about the changing in the roles of the committee, that was taken away.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead. You
No,
want-
it
that
became
was-
advisory.
That was not, in
No,
my
we
view, a
met
good
with them
thing.
every year. It was, I think most of us felt very valuable.
Yeah, we made that argument that it was valuable, but
Mhm.
it didn't happen. And then there was also another argument that was made recently because the staff was under so much pressure, it took time out of their schedule, as I recall.
Oh,
And so we kind of bypassed that part. And we made a pretty good argument for not doing that, as I recall. I don't remember when this
Just-
happened.
just on the rationale that the staff didn't have time for those interviews.
I didn't necessarily see them as valuable.
Yeah, I
I
know.
can't remember which side it was, but there was some questions around that. But we made it.
Personnel committee was very clear
Clear.
that we wanted to meet with
Right.
staff.
Yeah.
So,
I think we ought to have it, particularly this year, as I look at the recommendations, and I think it's really important to hear from staff, particular about wages, hours, conditions of employment, but also any other concerns they have, and get back into it, because I know a lot of blame has gone around as to who was responsible for staff morale. We all have some strong feelings, and they're all inconsistent. But I think we had an administrator, in my experiences, the lawyer has done job-related issues for 30-some years. Administrators generally do not like to see their overseeing of staff interfered with, and some admit that particularly Sharon was extreme with that. Never mind, guys, stay out of it. We're running this community like business. And I think that created a lot of problems. And some of us who could see the problems, for example, on finance, when I learned staff was assigned to do 2 budgets, people have told me they were assigned to do 3. And also due diligence in September. I had just apologized. I said, this is crazy. You can't do that. And no one was protecting staff who had the power to do it. So I think it's really important. Our community has survived for decades because of the amazing residents we have who do everything from pull garlic mustard to use their legal skills free of charge. And people we hire, if they don't understand that, we're going to have problems. And that's why the interview process is so critical. I think we've had a great turnover because we haven't carefully interviewed. I'm also concerned because I hear anecdotally that both folks that are coming to the board live way out of town. So we're dealing with another commuter situation. But that they haven't come to the personnel committee. So I'm very troubled about
So
it.
you've already heard where the candidates live?
I've already heard that they're out of Madison and would have to commute.
It's interesting.
yeah. Very
That
interesting.
information would be out there?
Why, what's the problem with
Well,
it being
'cause-
out? It's not secret.
Well, I thought it was
We are a
until
government.
until the appointment is made.
Yeah, until the
Nonsense.
board hears.
When
Yeah.
people, well, perhaps, but when you have what? You have 2 finalists tonight?
We have a finalist for finance director and a finalist for clerk.
So you have selected arguably something. We are a government. Everything is open, including who applies for positions. Who
No,
are fin-
No,
Well, then I'd like
No.
to see that opinion, because that's not my understanding. And it's something, an area I've also worked in.
I
So
don't think the personal information about job candidates is public.
but I also want to say, Marilyn, having served on a number of interview committees, I take offense to what you said about, not being careful. I think we're extremely careful when we interview, particularly in the last year when we've had tremendous turnover. We've been vigilant on those interview committees, and I've sat in on at least 4 different ones to be sure that we're getting the best candidate. And when we don't have a strong candidate, we open the search. So I just want to just let you know that we have been very careful with the way we've gone about it. And in terms, one last thing, if a person is applying from a place beyond Madison, we take that into consideration, but ultimately that's the choice of the person who wants to make that commute. And also the committee has to be comfortable, the interview folks have to be comfortable with that response. And I just
And
want
on
to
the
be sure
committees,
you
there's-
understand, we're very careful about it and thorough. And we have a very good interview process. Things don't always work out with the candidate, but that's beyond our control, usually.
And I was just gonna say, we always have more than one village resident on these committees. I've never been on a committee that am the only person from the village. I have a lot of input from the village.
I am not, and if my words said you weren't careful, well, then I misspoke. But I think there's different perspectives that may not have been brought to bear on some of the hirings. And again, it's difficult to hire people. It's difficult to find a good fit. But there's also certain perspectives that maybe weren't brought to the committee. And so again, there is a lot of different perspectives as to why we've had so much staff turnover. But we could sit here.
That's true.
There are.
Yeah,
We all have different perspectives.
But as a resident who serves on that committee, I take with great seriousness being able to come from the perspective of the residents. And I will admit that I can't know every perspective, but I bring a perspective that I think is really important to that proceeding.
no question, Greg.
And I admit I've only been here 35 years, so I don't have 50-year history. But I think I mean,
Keep going, Mary. Keep going.
if I keep living here long enough, I might get 50.
Yeah.
But I try to talk to a lot of people about their perspectives, but we all have different.
Yeah, it's good.
And I
We
think
can
right
see-
now we're in a real situation.
Well, I guess I can say that for the finance director in particular, this was a fulsome and highly considered process. So, we really pulled out all the stops for that one. The clerk was, so is a kind of an, it was not as full blown, but, we did it just so recently that the whole process was fresh. And in fact, that is part of the reason that I served again on the selection committee or the review committee so that I could incorporate the view of the candidates that we had in the last go around in the spring. So as well as the new ones. Okay, anything else about item 7? All right. Okay, number 8, village staff compensation in the 2027 budget, including police. Okay, so perennially, the staff gets a lot of questions. Why is the police budget so big? What's going on with the budget? So I included some background materials about budget. I'm especially personally proud of that little flow chart that I made, hoping that it would be a useful bit of didactic, to remind
Beautiful.
people exactly where our taxes sit among all of the 4 jurisdictions that get our property tax, that we have an operating budget, a capital budget, what goes on what goes to the banks, what kinds of expenses are in the general fund operating budget. So that's the context.
I was so impressed. Thank you so much, Carol. Something like this should be in the village bulletin
That's what
to
I think.
educate the
Well,
residents.
maybe in budget season, I can
In the
submit
fall.
that to the bulletin and fix up the font sizes and, yeah.
I have a question. Yes, I loved it too. Just look at
That's
it.
tough.
Colors,
There's just
colors is
one
good.
thing that I don't understand. The arrow from the village to the banks to
Yeah.
the capital budget
Yeah.
suggests that part of our money goes to the bank and then all of our capital budget comes from loan.
It does.
That is true.
Yeah.
So we pay principal and interest.
Yeah,
Okay, so all of the taxes we bring in go to the operating budget.
some of the taxes go to the bank in the form of
Oh, right, so
debt
that's why we did
payments,
the two,
yeah.
right, okay.
Yeah.
But the operating budget is only from, it's not from the bank, not from loans.
That's right.
What I didn't understand on the fund revenues, so do we have any TIF revenue coming in?
We have, oh, do we have some coming in? They haven't closed, none of the big ones.
Okay,
So I know that we have revenue coming in from the TIFs in that certain expenses can be charged directly to the TIFs.
because
Like some,
separated
like
out
some
that way.
administrative salaries. Well, I have at the bottom in the fine print that some things are more or less self-funding, more or less tubs on their own
Okay.
bottom, and TIFs are that. But with the exception of that, we
Okay.
do make certain administrative charges to the TIFs because they actually take our time. They take staff time and they take consultant time too. So that's the backdrop. And then in the packet, we moved on to the last budget narrative. And it talked about staff. There was a paragraph about, oh, let me back up and say, I mean, this was the whole raison d'etre of this agenda item. Police, people say police is more than half of the budget. It's 60% of the budget. That is not true. For a while, the budget was divided up such that police and fire were squished together under this category called protection of persons and property. And people thought, oh, that's police. But it's actually our police, or it was our police and our fire contract with Madison together. And now in the last budget, which is what you have in the packet, it's broken out. So police is on the order of a third of the budget,
Mhm.
and then fire is about half of that. So so just for anyone listening out there, which I guess is no one right now, that is the size of the police budget, approximately a third of the general fund of the operating budget.
This, with a view to what, if anything, would go in the village bulletin, some percentages under here might be helpful to educate folks on
The
that
amount.
police are not 50%. Anecdotally, I've always heard people, well, police are over 50%. Well, that
Yeah.
is not.
So
Public safety.
you can always slice and dice the budget in different ways. And in this case, it was sliced and diced into operating and capital. And the police budget, is in both of those, right? 'Cause-
Capital because of the police cars.
Yeah, and then the operating fuel and supplies and wages and salaries. So that it's an endless opportunity for fiddling and editing. The main point is that some of our budget is operated on debt and some of it is on revenues coming in each year, both from taxes and actually the green square, other revenues, that's actually pretty big. We don't talk about it at all, but that's revenue from the state, licenses, fees, rental with Blackhawk Country Club, all kinds of things that are actually kind of substantial. I mean, it's on the order of a quarter, I think, of the general, or maybe even a third of the operating budget comes from those other sources.
I have kind of a philosophical question. So I've heard that same thing of, the police take up so much of our budget. What's the end game that what is the concern? Is it that people want their taxes reduced, or is it because we want less safety? I mean,
I'm
what-
not sure. I'm not sure.
I don't know why we're fussing over
I
that.
mean, I think when people hear erroneously that it's half, that's kind of shocking. It just sounds like a lot of money, millions of dollars. When it's a third, I think, that it still sounds big until you
So what-
realize,
I mean-
that it's the same in every community. I mean, it's the same in every community our size, that if they have their own police department, that's what it costs. So, the next agenda item has to do with overtime costs, which is largely about police. I think, Brian asked me to put a little bit in here about the police and the 2027 budget. Staff, the main piece of this agenda item 8, though, is village staff compensation in general and the 2027 budget. So we saw in the budget narrative that wages overall are half of the operating budget.
Mhm.
So this is the biggest chunk if you slice and dice it that way. And
But my question is, why wouldn't it be? I mean.
I know. I'm not sure.
Well, I can say that the cost per person is higher. Is what is my understanding. I haven't calculated it, but that the cost per person of police is higher here than in other areas. It is over $1.2 million, but it's not 55% of the budget. The public safety as a whole is 55% of the budget. And that's because of our value of having our own police department and having our own judge and having fire and safety. I think it's important to lead with what it is and why we have it.
Mhm.
And also acknowledge that we have more, we pay more per person for that safety. And so I think that's where some people
But
myself
so
not
do they
included.
want less safety?
would say, yeah, yes, it's not safety, it's the belief that, and again, this is not my belief.
No, I'm just.
But for my understanding, it's the belief that we don't need to be spending as much money on police and having police be the main way that we maintain public safety.
So are those same people wanting to contract it?
No, I think there's like community policing, there's.
But I think we
neighborhood-
have
there's-
community policing, so
We
I'm
don't.
just confused by it.
Yeah, we don't have.
Oh,
Do you
mean like
neighborhood
when I,
or
Yeah,
I think it's.
neighborhood watch?
Neighborhood watch.
Oh, neighborhood watch, oh my God.
Or, there's other ways. There's other ways to do it, right? There's other possibilities, but. Again, this is not my belief. I should say, if we want to have that conversation, I think it's important to try to have that conversation genuinely with folks who believe that. And I appreciate the question. And that's why I'm trying to give.
Okay, and I'm just trying to figure out what we're trying to get to.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the goal is.
I think
What,
it's to save money.
for what?
So
So we can paint the buildings or so that we can
Well, so
lower
we
our
can fix-
taxes
so we
or?
can fix the streets and we can have money
More
to
speed
hire
bumps.
more people. Or, I won't.
Yeah, I know it. But I'm so confused by it. I don't know
Well,
what our
let-
end game is.
Let me interject before we go to Maryland. First of all, we do pay more per person than everywhere else because we are about as small as a village can be and still have its own
24
staff for everything. We are operating with no economy of scale whatsoever. And so, yes, we do pay.
It's like a small elementary
We
school
do-
versus a big elementary.
We do pay more because you still have to have a clerk and you still have to have an administrator and you have to have a public, so, yeah, we operate with that handicap, I guess you could say. Marilyn.
I don't think it's fair to say if residents want to question whether the money being allocated to the police department is being properly spent. that means they're against public safety and against having a 24-hour police force. I think there should be no sacred cows and that each department is subject to evaluation as to whether the money is being spent in a way that is justified. But I don't think it's a question of residents wanting less safety or more safety just because they question allocation of resources.
Okay, thank you. I think we're gonna get to police resources in spades in the next item, but yes.
Sorry, but I hate to leave something about public records hanging there without some clarification. And job applications for public employment are generally subject to open records law, but what is exempt is employees' personal addresses, personal emails, letters of reference, test scores. But resumes with this information redacted are very much a part of it. There is a portion generally when people are applying that if you want this information kept secret, we can do that until you're a finalist. But it is not secret when you're applying for positions for generally for government, municipal, state, federal.
But you said the address is.
Yeah.
But the fact that someone's out of town, that's not secret. That's
an
not their
address.
address.
You get the information
Well,
from an address.
We can
That's okay.
research the
It's kind of on the very slippery borderline.
the home address. But we can look, I'm just looking at the summary, but
Right, but the home address is how you know where they live.
Yeah.
correct. And the home address was not disclosed anecdotally.
Well, I
So
would
then how
wish
would
that
one-
whoever disclosed it anecdotally had kept it to themselves. I mean, this is really, really
And
on the edge.
I would wish that the residents are provided ahead of the affirmation of applicants' resumes with proper information redacted. Because to date, I've heard anecdotally, board members are saying that's secret or the administrator, and it is not.
Okay, I've held back because I want to keep moving in our meeting and we're gonna be done soon, but I feel like that is something that I cannot stand on. Having the residents being the ones that are deciding on who's being hired is not
No,
our
that's
job.
not
That's
what I
the-
said,
But you
but
said give the information of resumes like that.
well, we always used to, when I was on the board and we were considering a candidate, whether to approve that, as part of the information which is open to the residents that we had was the person's resume.
When they're being at the
Yep.
at the end.
Well,
An open session?
I don't
Of
think that would
course.
happen in closed session.
no,
But you're saying
Yeah,
at
it
the end,
would be.
like once they're hired.
no. People who apply in our final, I mean, look at, well, let me just say, let me give a memo next meeting so we're not all going back and forth here. We obviously, I don't want to have misstated what I'm saying, but also I understand that what, and I know as part of being a trustee, we had an open session, all the finalist resume. And that was not kept secret from anyone who was following it.
Okay, so what you're talking about is having access to the resumes for the finalists once they are chosen as finalists. That is common knowledge, and that is common practice. That is what you're talking about.
I'm saying in general, let me go back. When you apply for a public position, your application is not secret unless there's a specific request by you to keep it secret.
Yes, That is true. However, in practice, when people apply to jobs, they don't to a public institution. They do not believe that their information will be broadcast to the entire village if they are not just for applying.
Mhm.
They do believe that if they get to the finalist round, then they will become public.
And you're doing
But
it
I
for,
don't think it's in our best interest to have all applications out in the public.
Nor would I want that because it's an administrative bother. But I was just responding to the fact that my perception was there was a belief by some folks that you had no right to know people's resume who were being considered.
Okay,
So I think we're splitting hairs here. I think that the main issue is somebody's place of residence, someone's address, whether it's their exact street address or how far they have to commute, that's private. And that info is supposed to be a secret. Until, yeah,
Well,
period.
we can go on
Yeah.
from here and
All right.
not
Yes, Sam,
resolve this.
you have a, yeah, no? Okay,
No comment.
thank you. All right. But the main thing we're getting at in agenda item 8 is village staff compensation. So we all got in touch with different municipalities. Response rates were variable, shall we say, and the quality of the data were also variable. I went
There's quality, but the way they laid it out was
Yeah, yeah.
different.
Well, so I took also a different tack in the packet, which was to trot out our own 2022 wage study, which was done for the village by PAA, Public Administration Associates, I believe that's their name. And then also I put it up, I have to share a document that has that information next to our own 2026 wage grid. Okay, whoops, that's not the one. Better get that down out of there. Oh. Okay, open it up. Oh, I'm sorry. Give me a moment. Here we are. All right, I'm going to share that. So you all are seeing, everyone is seeing, not very well on the screen, I'm afraid.
I think you can enlarge.
I'll try. Okay. So this is our current wage schedule. If you just take a quick look, you can see all the steps, 11 steps. The 6th step is the middle. That's an important point for creating wage grids and comparing wage grids. So let's just look and see, for example, the administrator, step 6 is $63.50 an hour presently. In 2022, it was recommended that it be 56.31 per hour. So in an environment where we've had significant cost of living adjustments or COLAs over 4 years, the wages have gone up a slight, maybe a little bit less than 10% in the village, right? So I sent you guys an email yesterday saying that I was going to announce these figures in the meeting because they didn't make it into the packet. And this is important for village staff compensation. For this year's budget, we had a 5% COLA increase. And that was to try to keep pace with the new police union contract where the represented employees got an 8% increase. And that was to try to come anywhere close to parity with the other local police departments. So this little discussion here is kind of to show how nuanced and how many factors are acting on the decision that has to be made about wages this coming budget season. So we had 5% COLA in 2026. I believe we had 2. Let me just get it right. Let me make sure I get it right. Things going on my screen, I can't.
You're looking for 2022?
I'm looking for the little message I sent to you guys.
Yeah, I have it.
You've got it. Oh, please read. Yes.
Greg, where is it?
It came
July
yesterday.
So yesterday, yeah. So 5% this year. Can you please,
2:48 PM.
what was it last year?
3%,
Three-
with one step,
Yeah, all the rest came with a step, 3%.
2.5% in 2024,
Uh-huh, and then 2.
and then 2%. And then 2022 was just a reset year. I remember
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
very well.
Okay, so the general scheme, the general idea, all things being equal, is to give everyone cost of living adjustment because that's what everybody's up against is basically 4% inflation right now.
What is the COLA this year?
We haven't established it yet. No, don't know yet. I mean, for 2026, it was 5%, but that was a little bit COLA and a little bit trying to maintain internal equity with the
And no step,
and no step,
yeah.
right, no step,
Mhm.
because
Right.
you can't break the bank.
It's what it
And
would be,
so, but normally we would have COLA that is more or less in line with inflation and then a step because everybody needs the expectation that they're moving up in their career and that they are advancing and that they will get a raise each year based on their seniority and longevity. Well, not exactly longevity, but their seniority and their continued service.
Can you just remind me the step is generally 2%?
2 or 3.
Hey.
Something not like that. I think I heard Koki say 3. Well, we
Seems
could,
high.
we could do it. Anybody with a phone can just compare a couple of these steps. Or if you're good at arithmetic.
No.
So do a 5631 minus 5463.
Uh-huh, and then
And then do a
divide by
percentage.
5463. The difference divide by 5463.
Keep going, I'll tell you when I get.
Okay. Or, yeah, or try to pick one of these. It's a little
Yeah,
easier
Laura,
to distract me, but yeah, I
No, I
can't, I
can't
can't
do
do
it.
that in my head, sorry. And come up with the difference between 2 or 3%.
Calculators in my phone.
I mean, the main difference being if people get steps, that's good for them, but it doesn't have any impact on the general budget scale going forward, whereas COLAs take the whole grid and move them up forever
right,
into the,
fixed.
yeah, it never, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
The COLA is
I
applied
can-
to the entire grid, whereas steps are for individuals.
I think I ever appreciated that. Oh.
So I believe Brian told me a few weeks ago that inflation is about 4% this year. It's 3%. So,
Figured out.
thanks, Laura.
3%.
Oh,
3%?
3%. But what about inflation? I thought you were.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you were telling me.
going around
The
percentages.
step.
Step is 3, yeah, I was
Okay.
pretty sure Koki
Okay.
told us that. So, I mean, the budget is already full. It was full last year. We used fund balance to make it come out even. So there's gonna be it's gonna be the same the same trick this year, to try to squeeze some kind of wage increase into the budget, which will probably only go up by some small amount of thousands of dollars based on some net new construction, some small net new construction. Yeah, Marilyn.
Could you just give for me a timeline as to what Personnel Committee is looking at with respect to the budget? The good news is, in my experience, this is pretty early, or maybe not, based on what personnel generally does, to start getting all this data, all this information, be addressing it. Is there a certain timeline where we would, if we agreed, meet with staff, then make an actual recommendation based on all the information we're getting?
Well,
Or did something
first
happen last year?
draft of budget. I mean, the staff are working on their budgets now, the department heads. So, I know by end of summer, Brian and the new finance director need that information to make the draft of the budget. So, so if we're gonna use interviews with staff to inform our recommendation about COLA or steps, which is our main, I mean, I'm not sure what other tools we have besides thinking about alternative forms of compensation, benefits and stuff, that we have, this month and next month to get in on the ground floor, I guess, of the budget.
Well, sometimes our administrator would put in a holding number and say, this is the budget that it looks like if we have this percent wages. This is what it looks like if we have this percent, so that personnel didn't have to have an actual recommendation by August 31st. But again, I'm not familiar with how things have been done.
I had an additional question. What's our question here? What are
That's
we-
a good,
what are we-
that's a-
what are we supposed
that's
to
a
do?
good point. I mean, we have to think about what staff compensation we are going to recommend as part of the budget process.
And
Yeah.
typically, correct me if I'm wrong here, we do get it. Finance committee has a lot of input on this, correct?
Yes.
And informs that decision. And typically, and again, my brain is not always accurate on this, but my recollection is that we often ask, what will the budget allow? Like, what are the top end and usually the administrator provides us with that input so that we can make a really good recommendation based on what finance is looking at and what the administrator is doing, and then the competitive piece of this, which we've always been struggling with, right? Trying to keep village, what we pay competitive with what other municipalities pay, so we can stay competitive and continue to recruit really good people and retain really good people.
I think one of our main conversations is always, how do we split COLA and steps?
Yeah, and we make
And-
that recommendation.
And then finance really was determining the bandwidth.
Yeah.
But I think we spent more of our time on listening to staff and hearing that, the boots, the compensation for, and I'm not minimizing that. I think that's huge. And I think that those meetings with staff were very informative. I found them incredibly valuable. And that often informed us as to whether it was more important for people to be going up in the steps or whether they wanted a bigger cost of living adjustment. So, I mean, I can't say enough about meeting with staff. I think it's really critical.
In addition, we have to be cognizant, of course, what's happening in the other communities. Certainly Dane County has not only a freeze, but I think they were doing, or at least they were proposing, a 1% decrease because they have such a budget deficit, which in part, according to the Cap Times article, came from 9% in wage increases or creating new positions. I mean, it was really a fascinating article, and I'll share it with everybody. But again, part of our job is to compensate staff, but I never thought in personnel we were obviously not cognizant as well of the health of the community. So
Yeah.
I think we all agree.
For myself, I think one of the interesting things about the comparison of the grids, old and new, is that PAA set up that grid in 2022 so that the midpoints of the steps were right in the middle of all of these. I think they had 12 or 18 comparison communities. And so, and we put our people then mostly on the early part of the steps. So what we have now is a grid that is probably more or less well aligned still with the other communities if they've been giving COLA, plus our people have moved up the steps. So, I mean, I am guessing that if you look at midpoints, that our non-police staff are reasonably well compensated compared to their peers. I think part of the weirdness is that you get this bimodal thing going on where the people from large communities are getting a lot more and the people from some of the small communities are actually getting less than our employees. So I think in terms of admin and public works, assuming that COLA has been more or less the same as other communities over the past 4 years, don't know, that we're probably in the ballpark with respect to public works, forester, admin. We've always been lagging in terms of police. We're always trying to catch up. So I don't know if anybody else agrees that this is a reasonable analysis or came across that idea themselves. You know, as of 2022, we had a wage grid that was designed to put us right in the sweet spot. So it's possible we've under-COLA'd compared to our peer communities, but otherwise seems like we've been doing as we're supposed to.
The other issue that I remember struggling with a lot is the upper end. And I don't know that we have long-term employees anymore, so it's probably not an issue.
We
But-
have Jamie.
Well, on the police side,
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly on the staff.
We have
On the
a
staff
few,
side,
yeah.
at one point, I mean, we were struggling because they were not getting compensated. You know,
For the grid. and we
right,
know
they're off
everybody
the grid,
had one.
and that was a real problem.
Remember, just isolating it in the COLA,
Yeah,
and is that enough?
yeah,
I remember that conversation. too.
Yeah, I think we only have one such person,
yeah, I think that has changed significantly
plus perhaps
in the
Jamie.
last 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
Where your current,
The current grid is, yeah.
do we have that?
Yes, actually, not in the packet, though. It was part of last month's packet. Sorry,
Okay,
yeah.
so I cannot speak to, because I haven't been here. I haven't had that.
And we haven't had that many meetings
Yeah,
since
I can't.
January, actually.
I
Yeah.
can't speak to that analysis that you just made, but my sense was always that I thought that this study in 2022 was supposed to right-size us as best as we can. And then we would continue to do our regular. But then the environment got so toxic that we needed to fix something. And so we decided to do bonuses
Yeah, retention
to
bonus.
try to keep people. And that was a way to put a Band-Aid on the environmental issue. But now I'm hearing that that may or may not be true. And we may or may not have been right-sized in, well, no, you're saying we were right-sized in 2022 and you're feeling like we're pretty, that's still accurate. Correct.
So, I can't walk and chew gum at the
Yes,
same
fine.
time. Let me
Your
write.
time.
Where are we? So the only person on the staff still here and receiving a retention bonus is Brian. And the retention bonus was pitched as it was divided into a thank you bonus and a retention bonus. So there was thank you for working understaffed for many months, writing 4 CIPs, 2 budgets. And then there was retention bonus. So yes, Brian is still receiving a retention bonus, but it doesn't specifically have to do with the level of his salary, if the competitive or not competitive level of his salary. It's more like, please stay, Brian.
Which was in response to the environment.
Partly in response to the environment, including, and I would say leading with the understaffed, having to cover multiple staff functions.
But also because of the environment.
Also because of,
You know
also
what
because
the
of,
number is.
yeah, okay, yeah, also because of the environment. I mean, yes.
Getting back to this summary, and thank you, I read it in 2022 when it came out. What is one of the things they point out here on page 10 is that generally in neighboring police departments and generally supervisory employees are not hourly. And they pointed out
Right.
our police department is unusual. And they highlighted it as the #1 issue, police supervisory positions. It's interesting to note that the majority of police lieutenant positions surveyed are being paid as exempt salaried employees. The sergeant positions were reported as both hourly and salaried. In our past experience surveying smaller Wisconsin police departments, the supervisory management positions tend to be exempt and officers non-exempt, although this is not always the case. The fact that in Shorewood Hills, both your lieutenant and sergeant are paid as hourly, and their compensation includes overtime and on-call pay, should be taken into consideration when discussing their position on the wage rate. And certainly in finance, we had asked for the department heads to give us a breakdown of overtime by position. And I've seen some of those documents that were given to finance, but what we didn't have is it really wasn't identifying how much overtime, for example, did the lieutenant have? How much overtime did the sergeant have? These are questions that I would like to see the data on
Yeah,
that for the last several years.
That was, yeah.
Because the key thing is, in my experience, some folks will complain, oh, people are working overtime. In certain jobs, they really want that overtime. And depending on who assigns overtime, then certain people are favored for overtime, certain ones are not. But I think that data is important for us to receive by position. I did read the summary from the police chief, just in general saying, well, we don't do any overtime that isn't necessary. But having said that, I would still like to see what the data says.
So it wasn't in the packet, but you did get an email, the same email that had the packet materials and the agenda also had a spreadsheet from Gloria Beach where she has made an analysis of overtime, and I'm going to share that with some extra bits of my own.
I saw that. I didn't think it had down. You couldn't tell what.
If you look carefully, you can tell.
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
Okay, then I.
It's not
so-
labeled, but I mean, you can see the wage rates of chief, lieutenant,
Well, the wage
sergeant.
rates are different from.
and
what
the
they-
overtime.
And the overtime. Oh, okay. So will you send that to us all again?
I did.
Well, you sent it.
It's, yeah.
Okay. Well, let me see where I find it. I apologize.
But I will, I know it's confusing. I just can't get Excel spreadsheets into PDFs. It's just impossible. They don't, it doesn't look right, it's not big enough.
Yeah.
So I punted and I sent it by email, so. Sorry
Is
about that.
this a different agenda item? Or no?
Yes, it is.
I can't find that agenda anymore.
It's not, it's number 9, it's the next one, number 9. So
So for this one, we're trying to.
for
figure
this
out
one, I think,
Compensation.
yeah, I think what we have is, the next step is to have these interviews. And to try to then see which levers do we want to recommend pulling, steps, COLA, other compensation. Is that fair?
And the other question I do have, just back up to what we were just talking about. In the police contract, I mean, that changed, what year was it that,
This is the first year of a new 3-year contract.
okay, but when was that negotiated? Was
Last
it
year.
3 years ago?
No,
So
this,
the first
the
year.
contract we're in now was negotiated at this time last year.
Okay, and I don't think we've ever seen a copy of that because, that I recall. But is there a provision for who gets called to overtime first? Because in a lot of, I mean, a lot of contracts in other, not just on police, but in other domains, there is an order for which.
So I can resend that. I
Okay.
don't believe it's in the contract.
Okay,
But chief does give a rationale for
Mhm.
how it's done. And it leans heavily on the sergeant. Because the sergeant has these overlapping shifts, by
Mhm.
default.
the $12.
Yeah, they're by default, and then, so he's available to be the lone person covering if need be.
I really apologize, but I have
No,
a conference at
thank you,
10
Ma-
o'clock and
Thank you, Marilyn. I'm noting you going at 9:21.
We still have quorum.
Yes. Yeah, we got 4 of us.
Okay.
Although I gotta go at 10.
Oh, well, we're gonna end at 10. We're gonna call a halt then. Thank you very much, Marilyn.
oh, well, thank you. And Carol, thank
So I
you for
think
all
in
your work.
nursing, there's a way that you have to order
Here.
The
overtime.
shifts,
And it varies by institution.
yeah.
I mean, I can remember when
Thank
I
you.
called staff in, I have a very specific way I had to do it.
Inspires confidence.
So we're gonna move on to number 9, it seems
Okay.
like. Was everybody happy enough with where we left 8?
Mhm.
It's very complicated. There's a lot to do, but
That's very layered.
have the interviews. Try to kick off these interviews. Okay,
One other question.
Yeah.
If you could get, for the next one, give us sort of a timeline of what the goal is. So the goal is to have it done by August,
I would think, yeah.
and then how that goes with finance. So like, again, we always say, like, we can recommend all kind of stuff.
Right,
yeah.
We can say a 10% increase.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's our job to advocate for the staff.
Yeah.
I think it's other people's job to fit that into the budget.
Okay.
I mean, that said, we have to be as reasonable. I mean, we
Right.
can't ask for the moon because then it doesn't even mean anything.
Yeah.
But I think that there's just kind of a dynamic process. And if we can, between finance director and Brian and us and the department heads, I mean, there's just a lot of moving parts. And I think if we can get our bit done by August, I think that would still be in time to have a meaningful influence on COLA steps and potentially other
Okay.
means of
The
compensation.
other thing is when we would meet with staff, Carl never came.
Right.
But the chief did come, didn't he? With the police?
I think
And
so.
so, and like, at that point, the public works person would come with the public works.
Oh,
So
they came in a group.
they came as a group.
Oh.
And so we had admin, we had public works, we had police.
Yeah, forestry.
Foster came as his assistant.
Yeah.
Yes,
Boy,
right.
Remember that?
But Carl did not attend.
So did you all feel like, just from the body language, that all the staff felt comfortable saying what they had to say in front of their,
We would sometimes
Supervisor?
dismiss the person.
dismiss
So we
the
would say-
supervisor?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we wanted, there were some insights that person often had.
Mhm.
Yeah, like the DPW.
And then we would just, I think we sometimes dismissed like the person who was the public works
Director.
director, and then the staff would talk.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was just, I learned so much about what they did. That was one of the things that was just, plunging out some ridiculous stormwater thing that you just kind of go, wow.
Putting lines on the streets
Yeah,
or doing concrete to save us money from having to bring in a contractor. Those little things. The other thing I'll never forget with DPW was the negotiation of different hours. So take away by break, lunch,
Mhm.
and then the Friday
yeah,
hours.
it was
That
worth it.
we kind of, we invited a pilot over them, so they piloted it. And the same with staff too,
Mhm.
when we were
Mhm.
talking about Friday, the office hours of the village hall. That all came out during
Right.
our conversations with the,
And I would think today we have to talk about remote or hybrid working. I mean, that was
Yeah.
post those meetings. And I think it's something we have to talk about. The other thing I remember is they all hated the chipper shredder. Everybody, and it was what they had to do to assign people to work the chipper
except
shredder.
one guy liked it. I
Yeah,
only had one person who said, I love the chipper.
Okay.
but it's
But,
just,
you know,
but
those
it's
are
those
Yeah,
kind
the
of
little bits of
conversations
texture.
that you get to know people.
Yeah. Well, these, I assume these don't have to be noticed public meetings
I think
because
we
there's
were
no
Okay.
action.
Because
There's
we
no
had a
action.
personnel meeting and it was noticed.
Oh, it was a
meeting
noticed personnel
As a
meeting.
personnel meeting.
And they were 30-minute intervals.
Yes,
Got it.
they weren't.
Did we get with the municipal judge too?
Oh, we did.
We
did
met with the municipal judge also.
Okay.
And that's how the issue with the village judge and the person who.
Yes.
That emerged from that conversation.
Yeah.
So those conversations really led to some interesting changes, I think. And
I
it's
agree.
Okay.
really Brian, we have to get Brian.
We gotta get, yeah, we can't just go off and do this. We gotta round back.
And
With
it
Brian.
shouldn't hopefully be threatening, but it was, Sharon was very protective. I
Sharon didn't let us do it.
didn't let us do it. She was protective of, because she saw herself as the person to do it, not us.
Well, and then that whole governance study that was done by the board, I think that shifted dynamics. So this is really going back, I think, pre that. But I would say the personnel committee felt very positively about it.
I will definitely talk to Brian about it. Yeah, I can't promise, but
No.
we'll see what he says.
Worth a try.
Okay, so agenda 9, OT. I think I'm gonna perhaps make short work of this one. Where's my OT? There we go. Okay. So you guys got this. You didn't have all the pretty colors in it at that time.
Say, mine didn't have.
Yeah, sorry about that. I just did that last night to try to. So in my mind, then this question was presented as, should we be paying overtime or should we have another police officer? Another part-time or full-time police officer? And so if it just comes down to the money spent, what we have, this is police. I don't know if you scroll down, the top is admin and then forestry, and then you get to police, and that's where all the overtime is in. Anyway, you can see overtime pay for police in 2025 was $62,000. For the whole village, it was $64,500. So the whole phenomenon is going on in police pretty much.
Large percent.
Yeah, large. So I'm comparing here this 61.75 thousand to 657,000 total police wages. So it's on the order of 10%. However, if you look at this overtime pay column, it is representing their entire pay for overtime hours. It's not just the increment of, the half. This is showing the time and a half, right?
Oh.
Yes, and I'm pretty confident about this, and if you care, I can show you. But I believe that it's about a third of this amount that is the actual overtime increment. Now, somebody might tell me I'm wrong, but I did all the due diligence I could to try and figure it out. And it's basically comparing, if you compare the regular pay, or if you take the base rate, their hourly rate, and you multiply it by 2080, you get these numbers over here. And these numbers are bigger than the regular pay column, right? So these numbers represent what would be full-time. Their regular pay is less than full-time, which means that the overtime column is incorporating both the regular pay for the hours that they worked overtime plus the extra half. So I believe that this number should be more on the order of $20,000,
That makes sense.
which doesn't really come that close to a whole extra officer. So,
Especially when you add in benefits and,
right.
because I assume that extra columns, the lavender column,
Mhm.
if it includes their base pay, I mean, what we're really getting is people working instead of 40 hours, 60 hours, or 45 hours, or
Yeah.
whatever. But we aren't having to pay extra benefits. It does cost us some retirement, probably. But if you just pay the extra half, you're saying it's only $20,000.
I think so.
And
I
that
think
means not
somebody
much.
could tell me
Yeah.
differently, but
That makes total sense to me. And that means
Yeah, it
that
does to
rate doesn't rise up to the level
Of
of
a full-time.
justifying another.
another officer,
Yeah.
which is gonna cost you on the order of $75,000 to $100,000,
exactly.
depending on the
Right.
salary. So I know that trustee Utschig is doing some very complicated analysis with more data that I don't have. And he's bringing that to public health and safety. But my just, back of the envelope stuff here is telling me that the comparison between the actual overtime increment and another officer is just it's not there.
It's really hard to make that argument without, it'd be hard to make the argument we need another person based on just the overtime,
Right,
which is the half argument. Wow.
right. I believe.
I. So the one, this is the one that Gloria did mine with some
Yes.
addition, right? Okay, so.
Yeah, I just kind of reproduced part of the headers just so that it would be easier to
Okay,
look at
that's-
with police.
2005.
2005, yeah, I didn't do it for year to date.
Okay, so in 2000, this is the calculation that I did, that I think is in line, but I just want to tell you. So in 2005,
25?
sorry, 2025, Wait.
No, I was just startled.
How many
that-
years more or less?
Right, dated 21 years old.
So the difference, the difference between like how much was spent in overtime
Mhm.
for the police was, I'm also trying to walk and chew guns at the same time, it doesn't work. $71,000.
So
Right,
where does that come from?
So you have a higher number.
so it's just the difference from the total with all the overtime minus the wages by themselves. Right,
Okay,
so
so the
that's
total
71.
also incorporates these weird things like holiday overtime and double overtime and,
Okay, but
yeah.
But what I'm saying is just like if you were talking about just the brass tacks of dollars,
Mhm.
right? We spent $71,000 more than base wages
Yeah.
in 2025. And so in 2026, year to date, we are at about.
Hang on, Laura. That was part of the argument I made is that some of that 71 actually belongs under base wages because
Okay,
it's not it's not just the increment that's included there. It's actually just the regular pay for time worked is also being counted under overtime pay.
yeah. And if that's, I mean, if that's the base of the argument, I would ask.
Yeah.
That to be clarified,
Yeah.
but that's not gonna be mine. I'm not, that's not
You
where I'm
mean,
headed.
you mean clarified to the board or to?
No, just somebody tell
In the
us that
data.
that's what it is.
Like-
Oh, yeah,
In the
I
data
asked
section.
Gloria, but I haven't heard from her.
Right, that's clear.
So,
But we're at 21,000 right now, year to date in May, which is about 20% of the way there, which is
Yeah.
less than,
Yeah.
like, we're not.
this year
we're
isn't
not
as bad
on-
as
yeah,
last
We're
year.
not on
Yeah.
track to do the same thing,
And is that everybody or just police?
just police.
Okay.
So we're not, it doesn't look like we're on track to do that. And so then that leads me to believe that it's not as serious of an issue. But I do have questions from Jamie's summary that I think are important questions to ask.
Mhm.
And
You know, that really, Laura, was the other thing that I thought of too. If you hire a new person, you've got them for years, whether it's a bad overtime year or a good overtime, you know, whether it's a high overtime or a low overtime year, whereas this way is more flexible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I can't remember, were we short-staffed at the beginning of 25 last year?
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been short.
Forever.
I mean, like, I don't know. Yeah, all right. Yes. We're-
Got it.
So if the question that you're presenting to us is, do we recommend, instead of paying overtime, adding another police officer?
That's the
And
question.
that is the question that is being asked to us as personnel. Okay. So I would answer no to that question without seeing that this is going to be a trend year after year.
Is
Well,
anyone
it
asking for
increased.
another police officer?
Not that I know of.
Oh, okay. I just wondered if that had come up. I'm sorry.
The question
You know,
is,
So we have discussion and possible action here on the agenda. Do we want to take an action? Just recommend?
I think we need clarification on that.
Okay,
and I have
You
two
know,
other questions to add. One is in Jamie's summary was very helpful. My question was, her argument basically is that we are not at typical levels. So I want to know what the plan is if we don't return to typical levels of hiring. And then,
we have returned to typical levels just as of like a couple weeks ago. For what that's worth.
but that doesn't answer the question of what is the plan if we don't?
If we fall down
if we
again.
Without typical, yeah, levels. Like, is overtime the thing? Maybe the answer to that is yes. And then what is the Shoalwood Hills Law Enforcement Association?
It's a 501c3 charitable organization. and the board members are, our current police officers. But it's separate for the charitable type things like Ronald McDonald House and the outreach event in August and the mailing that they did to advertise for that and, you know,
So it's a separate, it's a separate organization that raises money to support the Shorewood Hills Police Department.
to support their charitable functions, not, it cannot be
To support
used
their
for wages, it can't be used for supplies,
Gas
gas,
and police have the
anything.
same.
yeah. Pardon?
I think most police departments have.
Do the same thing.
Sheriff's Department has it.
Yeah, I'm not questioning.
No, I know.
that.
I
I'm
was just trying
telling
to,
you what it is.
but yeah, I had the same question and then I was thinking about it.
Okay, and so it's run by a board. And the funds are distributed and collected through that board, and that's completely
They're
separate.
totally separate.
And what is the relationship between the law enforcement association and the chief? Is it like the chief comes to them and says, hey, we need some money for this thing? Or is it they come to the chief and say, hey, we want you to do this thing, here's some money to do it? Or both?
I don't know the answer to that. How the internal,
Just curious.
yeah,
I think it's between Ashley and Nick that oversee,
okay.
is from what I
I
had.
said Nick.
Ashley, the detective and Nick, the lieutenant Dodsworth,
They oversee.
The,
the 501c3.
So the staff oversees the fund of the association? Is that what you're saying?
I believe.
The current police officers are also the officers of Shalia, of the 501c3.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, but the expenditures that they can make are limited to, yeah. Okay.
The other, going back to what Laura said about trends, I'm wondering, I don't want you to do this, Carol. I'm just gonna raise the question. If this year for overtime, how that compares to previous years to see if we're trending upward or is it normative that we have this much overtime? But don't do that. I mean,
Yeah.
it just, because I thought the question about trend was really important. Because we're just seeing a single year. And, you know, people, I'm not saying that would justify
So-
more staff or not, but it would be interesting. But
I basically have the answer for you, which is
Okay.
that, I mean, before Chief Farrow retired, so in 2024 and 2023, he and Jamie were working extensive overtime. And of course, he was just doing it on salary. She would have been getting the overtime hours, and I don't know how it also dribbled down to the rest of the,
The other thing
Yeah.
that was significant is that it was changed from 1% at night to 2 people at night. And so that has to be in the timeline. Because, I mean, there was a time that there was only 1 person on at night. And then it was deemed that that really wasn't a safe situation. And I don't know what year that was.
I don't know.
oh, shoot. Yeah.
All
Anyway,
right,
thank you, Carol.
you're welcome. Okay, I think we're gonna, if it's all right with everybody, we're gonna rip through as many of these as we can before Laura has to leave and we lose quorum. Well, we're done. This number 10, direct deposit requirements for new hires. There was a situation with a summer hire who was using
Denbo?
Green Dot,
Oh,
which is actually a bank.
Oh.
But it's online. It doesn't have a brick and mortar presence anywhere around here, and their wages were lost and had to be repaid by it was a small amount. It was like one paycheck for a kid doing 4 corners or something like that. So, however, the question is, does the village want to make any restrictions on the kind of institution that somebody could be using for direct deposit? And strictly speaking, Green Dot is a bank. I mean, it has a routing number like other banks, and you know, FDIC insured, I guess, but so it's nuanced.
Maybe we could wait till our next finance director comes and see what that person's recommendation is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's-
But it sounds like anything that, what would we have done to prevent that? Prevent that?
If you, I guess we could stipulate that it had to be a bank in town.
Ooh.
I don't
Your
know.
mortar bank?
A brick and mortar bank where you
I
can
think-
call the
I mean,
person.
people use
I know,
cross planes, they use
I know.
New York banks. I don't know. that
Is
we
there
can
any-
do that.
I mean, is there a specific characteristic that we could pull out that would prevent you from trying to call and pursue it and getting never a real person on the line? I think that was
I can check
difficult.
with other entities and see what they do.
This is a very naive question, and I don't intend the judgment that is gonna come. That it sounds like it's gonna come to this question. I'll say that. Whose responsibility is it to investigate the bank?
Yeah.
Cause you just fill out a form and submit it. And it
to
goes right
investigate, yeah, what kind of a bank it is and where it is and all
Yeah, is
that.
that the employer's responsibility or the employee's responsibility?
That's a good question.
Well, I mean, you could, and similarly, you could ask the question, whose fault was it that the money didn't show up in the employee's account? Is it the employee's fault or is it our fault? I mean,
Or is it the bank's fault?
or is it yeah, I mean, we had, as a village, we had mercy on this young person and made them whole.
Because
But
that's our values.
yeah, exactly.
But you know, but your question also begs
Yeah.
the issue of, do we guarantee that it's going to that person's account? Or, I mean, that whole pedicure, manicure business that people would collect that it was going into a person's account that wasn't the employee. I mean, who's supposed to check that to make sure it's going to the person that was paid?
Okay, so,
Sometimes, folks, like I know when we first started using like Venmo and things, people would send like $1 just to check it and make sure you have it as a trial. So that might be something that we do. to-
And Apple
Yeah.
Pay
Like,
does that.
have sort of a trial payment before we do a full payment, if it's a bank we're not familiar with.
That's a good point.
that's
In the
good.
future, maybe.
That's a good idea.
That is a good point.
Whatever naive question you asked, you just,
Yeah, you
just
you
made
keep
up
going
for it.
farther.
Yeah, right. Made up for it.
Must be an HR.
Not at all.
All
So
right.
It turned out not to be a naive question.
Yeah, that's a
Turned into
good,
something really.
that is a
concrete.
really good way to check it. Always send the dollar or Uber. It always bills you something
Check
and
it out
then
to try it.
bills you
Yeah.
the second part.
All right. Are we happy with number 10 then?
Yeah,
All right. Laura saved us.
thank you, Laura.
Number 11, reimbursement for summer field workers. You have seen basically the size of the issue, the boots cost 6% of a summer, and I got the wage figures from Patrick. He for the forester, so I assume it's similar for the other summer workers. They work approximately, I think they work 20 or 25 hours a week. So, for permanent workers, it's in the budget, their boots and their apparel. It's in their departmental budget. I was trying to think, well, what could we do without adding something to the budget? I was thinking small capital. Could we use small capital budget for boots? That would mean that you would have to leave the boots here when you were done and somebody else would wear the boots next year. Everybody squinches their nose. They're like, ew.
Like using roller skating shoes.
Yeah, bowling shoes. I mean, the only thing is, people are gonna be sweating hard in these boots, so I don't know. But I mean, if it was kept from year to year, this is exactly small capital. And it would be easier to put.
How many people are we talking about?
Good question.
That are
That wear
like
boots,
that
that
are
category.
permanent or not?
No,
summer.
summer
I
employees.
think it's on the
that
order
need-
of 5, maybe.
I want to say a handful.
Yeah,
Is that
5.
correct?
I mean, there are like 2 for Patrick and 3 to 5, I don't know, for the crew. I'm not
So
sure.
that would be $1,500.
Yeah. It's a small amount of money, but I mean,
Why can't they just put it in their budget?
it's a
Yeah,
good question. Yeah,
I
I could recommend that.
I think we
I
need
think
to
that's
pay
the
for
safe
them
way
for
to go.
sure. I mean, it's a safety issue, but
Yes.
I don't think we can expect them to pay for it.
Okay. Possible action. We want to take action?
You know, if every household gave $1. to pay.
That's
So
right.
I will move to suggest to,
Recommend to the board? I don't think we can communicate directly with finance is the thing.
I was gonna try to communicate to forestry. I guess you're right. Okay, so the board has to do the budget for, okay.
It's
So,
correct.
okay, let me try again. I want to recommend, we recommend to the board to include safety gear for seasonal staff in annual budget,
Awesome.
Required safety gear.
required safety gear.
Yeah. So you could talk about.
Yeah, we could have a lot of things. Then the lifeguards are all gonna want long sleeve shirts. But you know, the other thing that if the board can't do this quickly enough, I mean, this would be something I think the league would probably pay somebody.
I know,
I mean,
I thought,
I-
yeah,
I certainly would
chip
to
in,
check and chip in. It.
sponsor a pair of boots.
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
Police department.
Yeah, that may be their,
Association.
it's their foundation.
Yeah.
Anybody second Laura's? Okay, Mary seconds. Okay, let's vote. All in favor? Awesome. Motion carries. All right. Administrative task mapping. Greg, would you like to speak to to this?
Can you give me context too, because I have
Yeah.
no idea.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The contract.
Context, how did this task get
Yes,
started?
so,
Last meeting.
last meeting, we were talking about, having a fuller understanding of what each person in the office, the administrative office does. And I suggested mapping it. And I tried to explain that in my previous experience, we mapped by position, using position descriptions, what each position, the required roles and responsibilities. And then in a separate column, well, that would be like essential, right? And then I would create a second column with non-essential. And what that was geared to do was going through each of those responsibilities and having a discussion about, is this essential or not? Or just trying to see the weight of responsibility from one's area to the next. And how do you do that when you're looking at spreadsheets? So I created a spreadsheet. I'm not good at this, but I did the best I could.
Is it colored?
No, it's not.
It
Well,
has
it
some
has
colors,
color,
it
it
has
has some
colors.
color, but what I did is I created a spreadsheet and using the existing position descriptions, went through and transferred all of the required responsibilities and listed them under each position. And I tried to rank order them like administrator first, and then I had the assistant, and, all the ones that were available to me, I mapped. And where there were two, which is one was in 2026 and one was in 2025, I included both those because they were just a little bit different in terms of approach. Anyway, so it's completed. I submitted it.
So it's completed except for the hardest one, right? The administrative services coordinator? Is
Yeah,
that-
because I don't have a
Yeah,
position
'cause, right.
description for that.
So we still gotta try and
I'll
find.
find it and
Yeah,
I'll be able to add it. But what's interesting, and I'll just have one observation, is the weight of responsibility for the administrator. I mean, that's the one that took me the longest to do, but it's just, the breadth of responsibility, and I'm just gonna say it this way, was breathtaking. For someone who'd been in administration, and then compared to the other positions, it's like 3 times the weight in terms of just list compared to the other positions. And that may suggest an associate administrator or some other, because it's just a lot. And I could be completely off on this, right? So I'm just saying, just impressionistically, without any analysis, just sheer volume. And I think you saw that too. Wow. After I was done, I was like, wow, that's a lot of responsibility, all essential. And I didn't make that distinction between essential and non-essential because I don't feel I have that's discussion, right? Or moving things around, which could be very easy to do too in that spreadsheet, moving like a responsibility. Maybe there's an overlap, or maybe there's repetition that we might want to look more carefully at. So anyway, that's done. It's done for now. It's just a first step. I'm open to any suggestions, but that's just how my brain worked, is the way to map it that way as a starting point. So
The other thing about context is that there was some suggestion that people, and it came out of both Greg and I talking about in the school district and at the university, there are small facilities and there are large ones. It doesn't take away from wanting a librarian, an administrator, a clerical person. And because the conversation was around per person costs for the Village of Shorewood Hills. And one of the things that, the comparison of we shouldn't be spending X dollars. But you have to then also compare the functions of the positions. Otherwise, we're saying that we should pay exactly what Maple Bluff pays, but the job descriptions or the function actually may be different. My experience with functional analysis is that it's very complex, and that is an expensive undertaking. It usually requires an external body coming in and doing intense interviews, as well as reviews of all the functions in an organization. And I think it would be an added expense and so I think the mapping was really an important step that we take. And we're always going to be having struggles because we're small. It just
there are
costs a lot to run small organizations.
but there are statutory requirements
That's right,
that have to be fulfilled by a municipality.
right.
And so when you start looking at the functions or the
Mhm.
essential responsibilities, it really emerges very quickly. I didn't do that analysis.
That would be
That would be another
that
step.
would be a great
Yeah,
step, and
it
it would
would.
take us a long way towards the essential, non-essential
Right, that's
dichotomy. Statutory.
Right.
Like the clerk, the whole thing is pretty much statutory.
Yeah.
And also, yeah. I mean,
Running an election, I mean, you
yeah.
can't
yeah,
do it.
and really
because
the
we're small.
administrator
Different.
too, zoning and all the reports to the stormwater report
Right.
and,
You still have to bring in revenue in,
Yeah.
you still have to pay salaries,
Yeah.
you still there are some functions that you can't eliminate just because we're half the size of somebody else.
so I think,
Yeah,
I'm recommending that everybody take time to study. I mean, Greg just got this data very recently. He just really turned to it basically over the 4th of July weekend, I'm guessing,
yeah.
based on when you got the stuff. So if he'll have time to pull out the statutory things. Hopefully we can find the admin services coordinator to add in there, which I think is going to add a lot of complexity that's not in there right now. And then think about the statutory stuff, and then we can have more of a discussion next time.
So would you like me to go and look at statutory requirements for municipal administrators and see, and I could star them or color code them so you know
Yeah,
What, however you
Yeah,
want
how
to
to do that.
delineate would be great. I mean,
teach you.
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
She could make a.
yeah, she could make it very.
And I just did it all the old fashioned way. I don't use AI. I just where I could cut and paste, I cut and pasted. Where I couldn't, I typed. I mean, but it's all in there. Every bit of
Did you
the,
send it to us?
no, I
I
didn't.
didn't.
I just sent it to Carol and to
Yeah.
Brian because it was the first draft and I
Oh.
wasn't sure. I didn't know what I didn't want to violate any rules, so I just sent it to them.
Yeah.
Because I'm really sensitive to doing that and then, get them in trouble or me in trouble. But I can certainly do that. I don't know how soon I could do it, but I would do it as soon as I could. You gave me the clerk
Yes,
statutes.
yes.
So I can go through and
Yep.
see, and some of the new.
I'm sure you can smell out the administrative ones that are statutory. I mean, it,
'Cause that wouldn't apply to administrative assistant or, some of the other, maybe it would.
I mean, it
I
gets
don't-
involved in clerkish things, right?
Clerkish
And, yeah.
Some of them are backup bookish things too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could add,
Yeah.
to the admin assistant stuff, also tie in stuff for the PD, because now that that's a dual position, there's more
Uh-huh.
for me to learn. So there's still a whole nother beast of
Mhm.
tasks and stuff that I'm still hoping and trying to learn. So I would add that to your list of work duties and responsibilities that you come up with as well.
I have two things to add. One question, is the question coming from us, from the board, from?
I think that it's wrapped into our responsibility to make recommendations about staff compensation. I think that's
It came out of the bonus conversation and how many extra duties people had. And then not being sustainable. People
Yeah.
can't do two jobs, especially when they're required to maintain a municipality. It just was too much work.
Then on what basis do you make those decisions?
Yeah.
And that's where I thought it would help to
I
see
think
it.
it came out of Taylor's.
Yes. it-
being
right.
under-resourced,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So this is just a really general baseline duty of personnel committee, and we're not gonna have it ready for the budget season. I mean, there's a lot of digestion we gotta do, I think. I don't think we're gonna be ready to make a recommendation. We need to reorganize the admin office like this in time,
I think part of and I may be wrong, but part of the question was not only can't fewer people do all the work issue, was just the breadth of work that is required to run any municipality.
I just think it's really important that we be very clear about the purpose and the
Yep.
objective.
I think that's fair.
And I understand that it's come from lots of different places and that's great. And also moving forward, we should be very clear about what is our goal and what is our objective and how does it fit? Because otherwise we're gonna spin our wheels and spend a lot of time for it to go there.
So I think that one of the goals is public outreach. I think it's to make the residents more aware of what the admin staff does.
Okay, but so-
That's my feeling.
So maybe I should just do it this way. I'll recommend for the next meeting that we establish, what we review it and then establish objectives for what our final recommendations.
Yeah.
And then I would also recommend that potentially this is something that we could use as fodder, right word, as a grounding for our discussions with staff. Like,
Yeah,
this
that's
is
a
what we've seen are the requirements, the responsibilities.
That's a
What
great
is your
idea.
experience like?
Mm,
Mhm.
Can you meet these? Can you not meet these?
Yeah.
Which of these do you feel like are important, which are you not? And try to use it in the staff conversations to help us understand where the tension is.
I think it also came out of conversations about adding these temporary positions because we needed communication. And people in the village are upset about the communications weren't coming fast enough, but we didn't have staff that could do that when they were doing payroll and trying to. So in that whole mixture of conversations, well, we're small, so we should have a smaller staff, but some things are still needed to be done and, you can't just have volunteers do everything.
Right, yeah, I got it.
Okay, that's good. That's good stuff.
So I like
Time.
that, I'd second what
Yeah.
just offered.
Yep,
Give me
exactly. I got it.
a second. Do you think you can have something or not for the board, for our packet?
I hope so.
Okay.
I'll do my best to get it turned around. I also started. So.
You're a lot further along. Yeah, a lot further along than you were a month ago.
Yeah,
So-
exceptionalized. And
Yeah.
But I'll do my best to do that and at least get the statutory piece. And then there's one missing position description that I hope.
Admin services coordinator. Yeah.
Administrative services.
All right.
Yes,
Thank you.
I'll do my best to turn it around by second.
Because then it can go in the board packet and then it's open information. Then you don't have to worry about,
Making any wrong?
getting yourself in trouble.
I don't think there's anything.
I
I don't think
I
there's
just-
anything
I just-
here. Yeah.
You know, just the environment we're in, I just want to be sensitive to that.
Yep.
Over disclosure.
Very
Are we
good.
having side conversations that are,
People hearing about what people are living. It makes me very nervous.
Yes. So that's number 12. I'm gonna suggest that we table number 13. Which is exactly what's been happening. I'm gonna try really hard to get us a working session next time. We had a lot of Terry. Oh, boy, oh boy, we
Mhm.
have to do this. I'm sorry. We have to backtrack to number 8.
Yeah.
Terry made the request for a vehicle. I emailed it to you all this morning because he reminded me that he had made this request for us to discuss. And that I forgot to get it on the agenda and now I forgot to even talk about it, even though I wrote it down right here, Terry vehicle. So it was emailed to you this morning. It's about having a vehicle for him to commute, reduce his changeover time. It's a added benefit for him in his public works supervisory role that would be a capital item rather than a regular budget item. So his question was whether this could have legs and that we might discuss it and that should he pursue finding out more about cost and availability. And he wanted an electric vehicle. Yay. To reduce fuel costs and the risk of fuel price vulnerability. Is this something that we would recommend to Terry to look into?
I did read it this morning and
Thank you.
I was kind of, really? And then the more I read his memo, it made me think that there really may be some validity to the village having a vehicle. What I don't know is if it should be assigned just to public works. And would lease be an option for, I think there are lots of things to consider, but my initial impression was I'd like to look at it.
Are we building a fleet?
No.
I mean, that's what I always think of when you were to sign a car out. Sign like public schools, I'm sure they did, like Madison, I go to the.
Only the superintendent had a car
Yeah.
vehicle,
I mean, just
and that
sign
was
out.
leased.
But yeah, no, I think it's a good idea. I read it too. It was
Yeah, that's
interesting.
my bad. I should have got it into the agenda and our agenda was so stuffed and I apologize.
And I would
Terry,
want,
but
I would want Brian to weigh in on this too. I don't think you want just a department head.
I think this is part of budget development. He just wanted basically the go-ahead to look into it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we're gonna tell him, yes,
yeah,
yes, look into it.
look into it.
And it's, I appreciate the idea of putting it in the capital budget. where we have a little more wiggle room, a little more dampening of spikes. And also that, our public works superintendent position was called out as one that is, quite a bit more hands-on than other communities. You know, Terry's expected to wear both hats of a supervisor and a doer, and that this might
And
be,
to be here whenever we want.
yeah, and to be a way to, compensate him.
Well, and my other question was, could he take a vehicle that is the village vehicle back and forth? Especially when, I'll just,
Yeah.
but these are just thoughts that went through my head. I mean, clearly overtime from this last month is gonna be significant in public works, at least I assume it's going to. They've been
right.
cutting up trees like crazy. But if the weather is looking precarious, it would seem to me that we would need to get our public works person in as quickly as possible. And would there, I mean, I think there are a whole bunch of things to think about with this. But
Could we just have a special meeting to talk about it?
I think that if Terry gets us all the information, we could look at it at our next meeting, at our August meeting,
Okay.
beginning of August meeting. I think that'll be. I think that'll be in time. I'll check, and if it just needs to be done, then I'll ask you all for a special meeting. Yeah. Okay, let me write that down. Okay, Laura, thank you very much for hanging out as long as you did.
Yeah, keeping us a quorum, thank you.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay, if she leaves, then we don't even have to have a motion to adjourn. Laura, thank you very much.
Good night, meeting.
Laura leaves at 10:09. Yes.
Doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Lost quorum, we are adjourned.
Sam, can I just ask you about what you wanted to add? When I was going through the position description for like in your position, basically, was there something you felt I needed to add to that? In addition to what duties assigned were, or was that another position in the office? I didn't quite get what I needed to do. Was that when we were discussing what I had done, taking everything?
You're the backup for the.
Oh, by the way, are we recording or are we done?
Well, I'm trying to figure out if I should stop.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
adjourned.
stop,
We're
stop. I
adjourned.
just wanted-
Yeah,
There's no quorum.
thank
Well, I
you.
make sure I get to that piece. I don't want to.
I think you might have to stop recording.
And I will put N.
Oh, and Mary's got